The audience holds its breath as a shy 13-year-old Filipina girl named Emma-Sophie steps onto the America's Got Talent stage. Her hands tremble around the microphone, her shoes slightly worn, and her school uniform peeks beneath her dress because she had come straight from class. When Simon Cowell asks her why she's here, her voice cracks. "I just want my mama to rest. She works 3 jobs alone. If I can sing, maybe she won't have to anymore." The judges go silent. The audience feels the weight of her words. This isn't just an audition. It's hope. Before anyone ever heard her sing, Emma-Sophie had already lived a lifetime of sacrifice. Their home wasn't the kind of place children dreamed of, just a single rented room tucked behind a noisy street market in Manila. The walls were thin, patched in places with cardboard to keep the rain out. At night, the air smelled like street smoke and frying oil. Still, to Emma, it was home, because every morning, she woke up to the sound of her mother humming softly while preparing rice before heading to work. Her mother worked 3 jobs, cleaning offices at dawn, washing dishes in a restaurant during the afternoon, and sewing clothes at home until her eyes could no longer stay open. Emma would often wake in the middle of the night to find her mother asleep on the cold floor. Needle still in hand, back bent in exhaustion, Emma would gently cover her with a blanket, whispering, "One day, Mama, I'll make it easier for you." And every morning, her mother would pretend not to notice the blanket because it hurt her to know her child was caring for her more than a child should. At school, Emma stayed quiet. Other kids laughed and talked about shopping trips and outings she could never join. She didn't hate them for it. She just didn't want anyone to know that she owned only 1 pair of shoes, or that her lunch break often meant pretending she wasn't hungry. The only place she felt free was in the small chapel near her school. The echo of her voice bouncing off the walls made her feel like someone was listening. She began singing late at night but always softly, so she wouldn't disturb her mother. She practiced almost in whispers, until the night she didn't. Her mother had come home earlier than usual and heard her voice, stronger than she'd ever known, coming from her daughter. She stood quietly in the doorway, tears filling her tired eyes. When Emma noticed her, she turned red and lowered her head, thinking she was in trouble. But her mother just asked Anna, "Where did that voice come from?" Emma shrugged shyly. "I just sing when it feels too heavy inside." Those words broke her mother's heart in a way she didn't expect. She had always feared that Emma carried her burdens, but she didn't know singing was how her daughter survived them. Months passed. Then, one afternoon, Emma came home holding a folded letter, hands shaking, eyes wide. An audition invitation for America's Got Talent. She had sent a recording secretly using her school library's old computer. She didn't expect anything to happen. She didn't even tell her mother, not because she didn't trust her, but because she didn't want to disappoint her if nothing came of it. Her mother stared at the letter for 5 long seconds, then shook her head. "We cannot afford the travel. We barely afford rent." Emma didn't argue. She just held her mother's hand and said softly, "I'm not asking you to believe in the dream. Just believe in me." That night, after Emma fell asleep, her mother sat in the dark, staring at her daughter's shoes, the shoes she'd worn for 2 school years straight. She realized something. Emma never asked for toys, never asked for clothes, never asked for anything except a chance to make her mother's life better. The next morning, her mother woke her early. "Pack your things, Anak. Let's go fight for our future." And for the first time in a long time, Emma saw her mother smile, not from politeness, not from obligation, but from hope. The trip to America felt unreal. Every moment seemed too big for Emma-Sophie to grasp. The airport lights, the crowds, the loudspeaker announcements she could barely understand. Yet none of it frightened her. What terrified her most was disappointing her mother. When they arrived at the audition venue, hundreds of dreamers surrounded them, dancers rehearsing, singers belting warm-ups, families carrying posters of encouragement. Emma stood silently beside her mother, clutching the number pinned to her dress with trembling fingers. She'd never been anywhere like this. She felt small, painfully small. But her mother placed a hand on her shoulder and whispered in Filipino, "Remember, Anak, we are not here to compete. We are here to be brave." Those words didn't erase her fear, but they gave her something stronger than confidence. Purpose. Soon a staff member called her number. As she walked toward the stage, the hallway lights felt blinding. She could hear the booming applause for the contestant before her. Her heartbeat wasn't just loud, it hurt. Her legs felt too weak to move. She wiped her sweaty palms against her dress and looked back at her mother one last time. Her mother didn't speak, didn't wave, she simply mouthed one word, "Go." Emma stepped onto the massive stage. The audience looked endless, faces everywhere, cameras, glaring lights. 4 judges sat before her like giants, their expressions unreadable. Simon Cowell leaned forward first, eyes sharp, assessing. "What's your name?" he asked Emma-Sophie. She whispered, barely audible. "And how old are you?" 13. "What made you decide to audition today?" She swallowed hard. Her voice cracked as she answered, "I want my mama to rest. She works so much. If I can sing well enough, maybe she won't have to anymore." The crowd went silent. Something shifted in the room. Empathy washed through it like a wave. Simon sat back, eyes softer now. "All right, Emma, whenever you're ready." The music began, a soft piano introduction. Emma breathed in shakily. The first note came weak, thin, fragile. A few heads tilted with worry, but then she closed her eyes and thought of her mother sewing late at night. Thought of every blanket she'd placed over her to keep her warm. Thought of every time she'd whispered, "One day, Mama," and something inside her broke open. Her second note was different, strong, full, soaring. Gasps echoed in the crowd. Her voice rose higher, richer, filling the arena like something far beyond the size of her small frame. The judges leaned forward, stunned. By the first chorus, people were already standing. Cameras zoomed in on Simon, his eyes widened, jaw slightly dropped. No skepticism remained, only disbelief. Emma hit a high note that didn't just sound powerful, it sounded painful, beautiful, pleading. It was as if every sleepless night, every sacrifice, every quiet struggle was pouring out through her. The song ended with a whisper, delicate, trembling, heartbreaking. For one full second, nobody moved. Then the arena erupted. Thunderous applause, cheers, standing ovation. Emma couldn't breathe. She looked around in confusion, her whole body shaking. She didn't understand what she had just done. She didn't realize the world had just changed. And backstage, her mother collapsed to her knees, sobbing, not out of sorrow, but because she had just witnessed her daughter stepping into the life she always deserved. The applause shook the arena like thunder, but Emma-Sophie stood frozen in the middle of the stage, clutching the microphone as if it were the only thing keeping her upright. Her chest tightened, her breathing turned shallow, and her eyes darted from the cheering crowd to the judges, as if she couldn't make sense of what was happening. Suddenly, the overwhelming sound and the blinding lights became too much. Her lower lip quivered, and before anyone could understand why, she began to cry, not soft tears, but uncontrollable sobbing. The audience fell quiet instantly, the cheers fading into a hush of concern. Simon Cowell leaned forward, brows knit in confusion and empathy. "Emma, why are you crying?" he asked gently. It took everything in her to form words, and when she finally spoke, her voice trembled like glass. "I didn't think I mattered." A collective gasp rippled through the room. Emma pressed a hand to her chest, trying to steady the storm of emotions. "All my life, I tried to be good. I tried to be enough. But every time I saw my mum come home tired, I felt like, no matter how good I was, it would never change anything." She paused, then whispered, "I sang because it's the only time I feel like I exist." Many audience members began to cry. The cameras captured the raw honesty in her face, not the confidence of a performer, but the vulnerability of a child who had lived too much life too early. Her mother stood in the audience, shaking uncontrollably, tears streaking down her cheeks. She tried to cover her face, ashamed that her daughter carried such pain inside her heart. She had worked so hard to protect Emma, but never knew Emma had been trying to protect her. Simon removed his headset, something he rarely did. His voice cracked ever so slightly, The voice of a man moved beyond professionalism. Emma, look at me, she lifted her eyes. You don't just matter, you are a miracle. What you did here today wasn't just singing. It was truth. It was love. Emma covered her mouth as she cried harder, not because of shame, but because for the first time in her life, someone outside her mother saw her. Really saw her, he continued, voice firm and emotional. You think you're small, but you filled this whole arena with your heart. That is not something ordinary. That is greatness. The audience applauded again, not loud, but soft and supportive, a wave of love rather than noise. Emma's knees buckled slightly, and a stagehand rushed to steady her. But she shook her head, insisting, I'm okay. I just never felt this before. For a moment, nobody cared about television, about ratings, about fame. It was simply a moment of human connection, a child who had carried too much, finally being told she was enough. Simon watched her with an expression rarely seen from him, one of awe and protection. Everyone could feel it. Something unforgettable was about to happen next. Emma-Sophie wiped her tears, still trembling, the microphone shaking in her hands. The audience remained standing, not cheering now, but holding their breath, as if afraid a single sound might overwhelm her again. Even the camera operators slowed down. Sensing the fragility of the moment, Simon Cowell looked at her, the way someone looks at a wounded bird, not with pity, but with fierce protectiveness. Emma, he said softly, do you know what just happened here? She shook her head. You made thousands of people feel something real. That's the kind of gift no one can teach. The crowd murmured in agreement, nodding, wiping tears. Emma's mother clutched the railing at the judges' section so tightly her knuckles turned white. Terrified and proud all at once. Simon leaned back slightly, his voice steady but emotional. People spend their entire lives chasing talent, but you walked in already carrying a soul in your voice. That is rare. And that is powerful. Emma looked down, overwhelmed. I just wanted my mum to have an easier life, she whispered. I didn't come here to impress anyone. Those words struck everyone in the room because they came from a place so pure, even the most critical hearts softened. Simon glanced briefly at the other judges. No words were exchanged, yet everyone sensed something unspoken. Even the audience could feel it, a tension building like the moment before lightning strikes. Emma took a step back, believing her audition was over. Ready to walk off stage, that's when Simon did something unexpected. Emma, he called out. She turned, his jaw clenched. His eyes glistened, the look of someone trying hard not to show emotion in front of millions. Then, without another word, his hand slammed down on the golden buzzer. A sudden explosion of golden confetti rained from the ceiling. The music swelled loud enough to shake the arena. The audience erupted. Louder than any applause, yet gasps, screams, cheers, cries. People hugged strangers. Many cried openly. Emma stood frozen for half a second, then collapsed to her knees under the golden storm. Her mother burst through security before anyone could stop her. Running to the stage with tears streaming down her face, she knelt beside her daughter, pulling her into her arms. Emma sobbed into her mother's chest, years of fear, sacrifice, and longing pouring out in a single moment of release. Her mother cupped Emma's face and whispered in Philippi, You saved me, Anak. I thought I was the one protecting you, but it was you all along. The microphone picked up the words, and the arena fell silent in reverence. Simon stood from his seat, a rare gesture, and walked halfway onto the stage. You changed something in all of us today, he said. This stage isn't what made you special. You walked in already special. Emma couldn't respond. She simply held her mother, crying under the rain of gold, while the crowd chanted her name in unison. Emma. Emma. At that moment, she didn't feel invisible. She didn't feel small. She felt seen. She felt loved. She felt enough. And the world felt it too. Backstage, everything moved quickly, interviewers bustling, producers giving instructions, lights flashing, cameras following every step. But Emma-Sophie didn't hear any of it. The golden confetti still clung to her hair and dress, and she kept holding her mother's hand, afraid to let go, afraid it might all disappear if she blinked. A crew member gently guided them into a quiet backstage room. The moment the door closed behind them, the world went silent again, and Emma finally breathed. Her mother looked at her the way only a mother can, with awe and disbelief. And yet, with the knowledge that she had always known this strength lived inside her daughter. "My Anok," she said softly, brushing the confetti from Emma's cheeks, "I never wanted you to feel responsible for me. I never wanted you to carry my struggles." Emma lowered her eyes. "I just didn't know how to help you, except by singing." Her mother reached for her hands, calloused from house chores, small but steady. "You helped me long before tonight," she whispered. "Every morning you smiled. Every night you covered me with a blanket. Every day you tried to make life lighter. You think you weren't enough, but you've been my strength all this time." Emma's throat tightened. "So, you're not mad that I came here?" Her mother laughed through tears. "Mad, Anok. Today you showed the world what I've always seen in you. You gave me the greatest gift a mother can receive. You believed in a future for us." Emma leaned her head on her mother's shoulder. For the first time in her life, she didn't feel like a child trying to fix something. She felt like someone who had finally changed something. A producer knocked gently on the door. "Emma, America would love a few words before you go." Emma nodded, wiped her eyes, and walked toward the camera. She didn't prepare a speech. She didn't rehearse. She simply spoke from her heart. "I used to think that only the strongest people matter," she said. "The ones who never cry, who never make mistakes. But today, I learned something." She turned to look at her mother, smiling through emotion. "You don't have to be strong all the time to be worthy. You just have to love and keep trying." The interviewer asked, "What will you do now that you got the golden buzzer?" Emma looked at her mother and answered without hesitation, "No more 3 jobs for my mum. No more falling asleep on the floor. That's my goal." Her mother started to cry again, hiding her face. This time, out of overwhelming pride, not shame. Emma reached for her hand, and the two of them walked toward the exit doors, past the cameras and noise, into a future neither of them had ever allowed themselves to imagine. As the doors opened and the cool night air brushed against their faces, Emma whispered, "Mama, we're going home differently." Her mother nodded. "Yes, Anna. We're going home free." And with that, the story leaves the world with a message. Sometimes, the loudest music isn't made of instruments or applause, it's made of love. And the small, quiet hearts who carry it often change the world without even knowing it.